Welcome back to Dr. Karen's Math Hacks. Today I'm going to continue the series on fractions and talk about what really happens when we find that common denominator when we're adding and subtracting fractions. Let's take a look. So in the last video on fractions, we saw that when we're cutting things into pieces, the number on the bottom is the number it takes to make a whole, and the number on the top is how many we have. All right? So let's take a fraction that is not a whole. Let's take Let's take 3/4. Now, when we got rid of these dividing lines, what we did was went from 6/8, and we divided by 2, which is what happens when we get rid of those lines. We'll get 3/4. So now let's take those 3/4 and let's add it to 5/6. All right? So we have 3/4 plus 5/6. And when we add and subtract, we have to add and subtract the same thing. And a fourth is not the same thing as a sixth. Okay, they're different things. So we have to make them the same thing. All right? We need to make them the same size. So when we're dealing with size, we're dealing with the denominator. Okay? So let's look at what we need to do. So if we find a common denominator, that tells us how big the pieces need to be for us to add them. All right? How we find it is we take the biggest one, 6, and we count by 6s until a 4 goes in evenly. 6, nope. 12, yes. So we're going to multiply this by 2 to make 12s, and this by 3. Remember, we have to do the same to the top and the bottom. All right, when we're multiplying this by 2, we're cutting each of the sections in half. When we're multiplying by 3, we're cutting each of the sections in thirds. So now they're the same size, so now we can add them. Okay? So this is how much you're cutting the piece, the 1/4 piece into, and this is the resulting size. And we have more of them because when you cut something into pieces, you end up with more pieces. 9/12 and 10/12 is 19/12. Because that 19 is bigger than 12, that tells us that we have more than one, which means that we can grab 3 of them from here and stick them up here. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. So that gives us 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 12s. Okay, so we have 12 12s plus 7 12s. And this is 1. So when we add 3/4 and 5/6, we get 1 and 7 12s. Let's look at another one. Okay, let's look at 2/3. There's a 3/3 minus 1 is 2/3 plus 3/5. All right. So we need to make the sizes the same so that we can add them. So we look at the largest denominator, the 5. We count by 5s until a 3 goes in there. 5, 10, 15. In this case, the common denominator is the two denominators multiplied. However, as we saw in the last case, that's not always true. So this is 3 times 3 is 9 15ths. And 2 times 5 is 10 15ths. So we add them together and we get 19 15ths. Physically, we're dividing this by 5. And this by 3. To make them the same size. So here we're going to want to take 15 15ths plus 4 15ths. All right, the 15 15ths is 1 and 4 15ths. So what we're doing is we're taking 5 of these and putting them over here. One, two, three, four, 5. So we have 1 and 4 15ths. Let's look at 1/2 plus 2/3. The common denominator is 6. So we're going to multiply this by 2 and this by 3. So we're cutting this into 3 parts. We're cutting each of these into 2 parts. So we have 3 6 and 4 6. So we have 7 6. Okay? We're adding the top because that's the number of pieces we have. But the bottom stays the same because that's the size of the piece. Okay? So then we simplify this. We take these 3 and we move them up here. And we have 1 and 1/6. Okay. The same is true if we're subtracting fractions. So let's look at 2/3 minus 1/4. All right, so the common denominator is 12. So we're physically dividing these pieces so they're the same size. So we have 2 times 4 is 8 12s, which we can see counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 3 12s. So now 8 12s minus 3 12s. That means for every one of these, we kill off one of those. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 12s. So 8 pieces minus 3 pieces is 5 12s. I hope this has simplified things for you in terms of adding and subtracting. If you found this video useful, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. I'll be posting another math hack next week. Today we're going to